The massive space station looked like a metal mountain floating in the dark. Admiral Dong-wook Kim pressed his face against the small window of his shuttle and watched as they got closer. The Galactic Council station was huge, bigger than any city on Earth. Silver towers twisted up from its surface, like fingers reaching into space. Bright lights blinked along its edges, and ships moved around it like tiny insects. Dong-wook had been to this place many times over the past 5 years. He knew every corridor, every meeting room, every alien face that would stare at him with their strange eyes. But today felt different. Today, the message from the council had been short and cold. Come at once. Important matter to discuss. Mi Young Park sat across from him in the shuttle. She was looking at her datapad, reading through files about alien biology and behavior. Her dark hair was pulled back tight, and her face showed the worry she was trying to hide. She had been studying aliens longer than anyone else on Earth. If she was worried, then Dong-wook should be worried too. What do you think they want? Dong-wook asked. Mi-young looked up from her pad. Something bad. The Vorthic ambassador sent 3 separate messages yesterday. The Corvin fleet commander has been asking questions about our ship numbers, and the Nebulites have gone completely silent. Dong-wook nodded. In his 5 years as Earth's main representative to the Galactic Council, he had learned to read the signs. When aliens started asking too many questions, trouble was coming. When they stopped talking altogether, trouble was already here. The shuttle landed with a soft bump in the stations. Docking bay. Dong-wook and Mi-young walked through the airlock into the station proper. The artificial gravity felt slightly heavier than Earth normal, and the air had a metallic taste that never went away. Alien workers moved cargo containers with their many arms or tentacles. Some floated in the air using their natural gas bodies. Others walked on legs that bent in ways that hurt to look at. 2 Corvin soldiers waited for them at the entrance. They were tall and thin, with dark blue skin and 4 arms each. Their faces had no expression at all. One of them spoke in the flat, mechanical voice that all Corvins used. Admiral Kim, Dr. Park, the council waits. They followed the soldiers through corridors lined with walls that seemed to be made of living crystal. The Vorthok had built most of this station, and their technology was beyond human understanding. The walls pulsed with soft light, and sometimes Dong-wook could swear he heard them whispering. The council chamber was at the heart of the station. It was a huge round room with seats arranged in circles, rising up toward the ceiling like steps. Each alien species had their own section with special equipment for their needs. The Nebulites had floating tanks filled with their home atmosphere. The Vorthic sat on platforms that connected directly to the station's computer systems. The Corvins had simple chairs, but each one had weapon controls built into the armrests. At the center of the room was a small platform, where visitors could stand to address the council. Dong-wook had stood there many times before, usually to ask for trading rights, or to settle small disputes between human colonies and alien worlds. Today, the platform felt like a trap. Counselor Vexton floated down from the Vorthic section. He was a being made of living crystal, roughly shaped like a human, but twice as tall. Light moved through his body in patterns that meant different things, though humans had never learned to read them all. When he spoke, his voice came from speakers hidden throughout the room. Admiral Kim, Dr. Park, thank you for coming so quickly. Dong-wook bowed slightly. Counselor, we are here to serve, indeed. Vexton's crystal body flashed with red light. That is exactly what we need to discuss. General Thakmer dropped down from the Corvin section. He landed hard, on his 4 legs, his 4 arms crossed over his chest. His dark blue face showed no emotion, but his black eyes were fixed on Dong-wook like a predator watching prey. Humans have become a problem, Thakmer said. His voice was like grinding metal. You expand too fast. You ask too many questions. You do not follow the established ways. Ambassador Flux drifted down from the nebulite section. She was a cloud of glowing gas contained in a translucent suit that roughly matched human shape. When she spoke, her voice sounded like wind through leaves. Your species has been in space for less than 100 of your years, Flux said. Yet, you have claimed 47 star systems. You have built weapons we did not approve. You have made alliances without our permission. Dong-wook felt his heart start to beat faster. This was not a normal diplomatic meeting. This was an accusation. The human colonies were established in unclaimed systems. Our weapons are defensive only. Our alliances are for trade and mutual protection. Your weapons, Thakmer said, are more advanced than they should be. Your ships move in ways our computers cannot predict. Your tactics do not follow any known patterns. Mi Young stepped forward. If I may, General, human tactics are different because we think differently. We solve problems in our own way. Vexthen's body flashed with harsh white light. That is the problem. Your way of thinking is chaotic. It disturbs the balance we have maintained for 3,000 years. The Galactic Council has brought peace to this region of space, Flux added. We have prevented wars, settled disputes, and guided younger species toward wisdom. But humanity refuses to be guided. Dong-wook looked around the chamber. Representatives from dozens of other species watched from their seats. Some looked curious. Others looked afraid. A few looked angry. But none of them looked surprised. They had known this was coming. What exactly are you asking of us? Dong-wook said. Vexthen floated closer to the platform. His crystal body was now bright enough to hurt the eyes. We are not asking, Admiral. We are requiring. Humanity will surrender control of your hyperdrive technology to Council oversight. You will dismantle your military fleets and accept Council protection ships in their place. You will submit to guidance in all matters of expansion and colonization. And if we refuse? Mi Young asked. General Thakmer's 4 arms spread wide, showing the weapon controls built into his chair. Then you will be classified as a threat to galactic peace. The Council will take whatever steps are necessary to protect the civilized worlds. Dong-wook felt the blood drain from his face. This was not diplomacy. This was surrender or war. How long do we have to consider this? 72. Standard hours, Vexthen said. At the end of that time, you will announce humanity's compliance, or we will begin enforcement actions. The chamber fell silent. Dong-wook could hear his own breathing and Mi-young's. The alien representatives watched and waited. 3,000 years of galactic peace hung in the balance, and humanity was being asked to choose between freedom and survival. Dong-wook straightened his shoulders and looked directly at Vexthen's blazing crystal form. Counselor, with respect, I need to make something clear. Humanity has never started a war in space. We have never threatened any peaceful species. We have followed every treaty we have signed. That is true, Flux admitted. But you are asking. Used to give up everything that makes us human. Our independence. Our right to choose our own path. Our freedom to grow and explore. Dong-wook's voice grew stronger with each word. These things are not negotiable. Vexthen's light grew even brighter. Then you refuse? Dong-wook looked at Mi-young. She nodded once firmly. He looked up at the watching alien faces, some curious, some hostile, some afraid. Then he looked back at the 3 council leaders. Humanity does not kneel, he said. The chamber erupted in sound as dozens of alien voices spoke at once. General. Thakmer activated something on his chair, and suddenly human communications throughout the galaxy went dead. The quantum network that connected Earth to its colonies shut down with a soft electronic whine. 72 hours, Admiral. Vex then. Sighed. Choose wisely. 3 days had passed since Admiral Dongwook Kim delivered humanity's refusal to the Galactic Council. The silence from Earth's colonies was complete now. No messages, no trade reports, no family calls between star systems. The quantum communication network that connected all human worlds had been cut off by Council Technology. Captain Jae Sung-yoon stood on the bridge of his frigate, the Soul's Pride, and watched the enemy fleet approach New Sol Colony. Through the main screen, he could see 47 Corvan warships moving in perfect formation. They looked like metal sharks swimming through the black ocean of space, their hulls dark blue to match their creator's skin. "Sir," called his tactical officer Hai-Jin Lee from her station. "I count 12 heavy cruisers, 24 destroyers, and 11 support vessels. They're moving in standard Corvan battle formation 7. Jae-Sung nodded. He had studied Corvan military tactics for years, ever since humans first encountered them. The aliens were predictable in their approach to war. They always used the same formations, the same attack patterns, the same strategies that had worked for them for centuries. "How many ships do we have?" Ji-Sung asked, though he already knew the answer. 15 frigates, sir. 3 patrol boats. And the civilian ships are still evacuating the outer stations. 15 ships against 47. Any sane military commander would surrender immediately. But Jae-Sung had never claimed to be sane, and neither had any other human who volunteered. For frontier colony defense. Hai-Jin, show me Formation 7 again. A tactical display lit up with a 3-dimensional image of the approaching Corvan fleet. The ships moved in tight groups, each group supporting the others in overlapping fields of fire. It was perfect. Military thinking, designed to overwhelm any enemy through superior firepower and coordination. "Sir," Hai-Jin said quietly, "I've been studying their formation patterns. They've used this same setup against 7 different species over the past 50 years. It's never failed them. What makes it work? Discipline, order. Each ship knows exactly where it should be and what it should do. No confusion, no chaos, no mistakes." Jae-Sung smiled. "And what happens when they face an enemy that doesn't follow the rules?" Hai-Jin looked up from her instruments. She had been thinking the same thing. "I'm not sure, sir, but I'd like to find out." On the mining world of Taigu Prime, Subin Nam crawled through the ventilation shaft of processing plant number 7. Behind her, 12 other miners followed in single file. They moved quietly, though the heavy footsteps of Corvan soldiers echoed through the facility below them. The Corvans had landed 3 hours ago, expecting to find terrified colonists ready to surrender. Instead, they found empty buildings and silent streets. The humans had vanished into the vast network of mining tunnels that honeycombed the planet's surface. Subin had worked these mines for 8 years. She knew every tunnel, every shaft, every secret passage that connected the underground facilities. The Corvans might be superior soldiers, but they were fighting on human ground now. She stopped at a ventilation grate and peered down into the main processing chamber. 20 Corvan soldiers stood guard while their officers examined the mining equipment. The aliens looked confused. They had expected resistance or surrender, not an empty maze of industrial machinery. Subin smiled and activated her comm device. "Ghost team to all units. The rats are in the trap." Throughout the facility, human voices answered. "Cave team ready. Tunnel team in position. Dig team standing by." "On my mark," Subin whispered. 3, 2, 1, mark. The mining facility came alive with the sound of human laughter echoing through the communication systems. The Corvan soldiers looked around in confusion as voices seemed to come from the walls themselves. Then the lights went out. Dock at New Sol. Captain Jae-sung watched the Corvin fleet draw closer. They were almost in weapons range now, their formation perfect and deadly. All ships, he said into his comb. Remember, we're not trying to win a stand-up fight. We're trying to survive long enough to make them think twice about easy victories. Sir? Hee-jin said, the lead cruiser is powering weapons. Good. Hee-jin, send the signal. The human ships suddenly scattered in all directions, like leaves blown by a windstorm. There was no formation, no pattern, no military logic to their movements. Some ships dove down below the plane of battle. Others climbed high above it. Few flew directly at the Corvin fleet before spitting away at the last second. The Corvin computer systems, designed to track orderly military formations, struggled to keep up with 15 ships moving in completely random directions. Target locks flickered on and off. Firing solutions collapsed as soon as they formed. Sir, called the human pilot of the frigate Daegu Runner, they're trying to surround us, but they can't figure out where we're going. That's because we don't know where we're going either, laughed the captain of the Bizon Swift. Jae-sung watched his tactical display with satisfaction. The Corvin formation was breaking apart as individual ships tried to target human vessels that refused to stay in one place long enough to be hit. Hee-jin, are you recording this? Every second, sir. Their formation is completely falling apart. They're getting in each other's way, trying to track our movements. On Taegu Prime, Subin and her team dropped through the ventilation shafts into the darkened processing plant. Night vision equipment showed them exactly where each Corvin soldier stood. The aliens were grouped together, back to back, scanning for threats they couldn't see. Su-bin had spent her whole adult life working with mining equipment, plasma cutters, gravitational manipulators, sonic borers, molecular dissolvers, tools designed to tear apart solid rock and extract valuable metals. With a few modifications, they made excellent weapons. Remember, she whispered to her team, we're not trying to kill them all. We're trying to scare them all. The attack began with a sound like thunder as mining charges exploded in carefully planned sequences throughout the facility. The Corvin soldiers spun around, trying to find the source of the explosions, but the sounds came from everywhere at once. And the plasma cutters lit up the darkness with brilliant beams of superheated gas. The beams didn't target the soldiers directly, but cut through the support beams above their heads. Massive pieces of mining equipment crashed down around the aliens, missing them by inches. The Corvins opened fire at shadows and echoes, while human voices laughed from hidden speakers throughout the facility. Subin watched from her hiding place as the disciplined alien soldiers began to panic. They were trained to fight other soldiers, not ghosts who attacked with industrial equipment. At New Sol, the space battle had turned into something no military academy had ever taught. The Corvin fleet was spread across thousands of kilometers of space, individual ships chasing human frigates that darted and weaved like minnows avoiding sharks. Sir, Hee-jin reported, 3 of their destroyers just collided while trying to intercept the ancient spirit. Damage to our ships? The Gangnam Express lost some hull plating, but she's still flying. The Jeju Dream reports minor engine problems. Everyone else is fine. Jae-sung couldn't believe it. They were not only surviving, they were winning. The mighty Corvin fleet was in chaos, unable to adapt to human tactics that made no tactical sense. Sir, the communications officer called out, I'm getting reports from other colonies. The same thing is happening everywhere. The council fleets can't handle our fighting style. On Taegu Prime, Subin's miners had driven the Corvin ground forces back to their landing ships. The aliens retreated in good order, but their confidence was shaken. They had expected to face either cowards or conventional soldiers. Instead, They found humans who fought like no species they had ever encountered. "Ghost team to all units," Subing called as she watched the Corvin ships lift off. "Phase 1 complete. The rats are running." Similar reports came in from mines across the planet. Human civilians, using nothing but mining equipment and knowledge of their own territory, had force-trained alien soldiers to retreat. As the news spread through hidden communication channels, something else spread with it: hope. The mighty Galactic Council wasn't as invincible as they claimed. Their perfect military formations could be beaten by humans who refused to fight fairly. In space above New Sol, Captain Jae-sung watched the Corvin fleet pulling back to regroup. They hadn't been destroyed, but they had been humiliated. Their perfect formation was scattered across the star system, and their commanders were probably trying to figure out what had gone wrong. "Hi, Jin," Jae-sung said. "Send a message to all human colonies on emergency channels. Tell them what happened here." "What should I say, sir?" Ji-Zoon looked at the retreating alien ships and smiled. "Tell them the Galactic Council wanted to see what makes us dangerous. Tell them we're just getting started." Admiral Dong-wook Kim stood in the war room beneath the Earth Defense headquarters in Seoul. The room was full of screens showing star maps, ship positions, and communication logs from across human space. Red dots marked where Council fleets had attacked human colonies. Green dots showed where those fleets had been forced to retreat. "Sir," said Commander Park Ji-ho, "we have confirmation from 17 colonies. The Council forces are pulling back to regroup. Their casualties are minimal, but their formations are broken." Dong-wook studied the tactical displays. The alien fleets weren't destroyed, just confused and angry. They would be back, probably with different tactics and more ships. But for the first time since this crisis began, humans had something they hadn't expected to have: time. "Get me Dr. Tae-Hyan Choi," Dong-wook said. Dr. Tae-Hyan Choi appeared on the main screen from his laboratory complex in the mountains outside Bisan. Behind him, technicians worked on equipment that looked like it belonged in a science fiction movie. Tae-Hyan had been Earth's head of defense research for 3 years, ever since humanity's first hostile encounter with space pirates. "Admiral," Tae-Hyan said, "I saw the reports from New Sol and Taegu Prime. Impressive work. Doctor, how long until the Council fleets regroup and attack again?" "Based on their previous patterns, maybe 2 weeks. Possibly 3 if they're really confused by what just happened." Dong-wook nodded. "Is Project Prometheus ready?" Tae-Hyan smiled. It wasn't a pleasant smile. "Admiral, Project Prometheus has been ready for 6 months. We were just waiting for someone to give us a reason to use it." On the screen behind Tae-Hyan, technicians wheeled out a device that looked like a silver egg the size of a car. Cables ran from it to computer systems that hummed with power. "What am I looking at, Doctor?" "The future of human defense technology. We've been studying every piece of alien equipment we could get our hands on for the past 5 years. Trade, samples, crashed ships, diplomatic gifts. We took it all apart and figured out how it works." Tae-Hyan gestured to his technicians, and they activated the device. The silver egg began to glow with soft blue light. Then we made it better. At New Sol Colony, Captain Jae-sung-yoon received an encrypted message from Earth Defense Command. The message was short: "Prometheus is active. Implement Protocol 7 immediately." Ji-sung had never heard of Protocol 7, but the message came with new technical specifications for his ship's systems. He handed the data chip to Hai-Jin Lee. "What do you make of this?" he asked. Hai-Jin plugged the chip into her tactical computer and watched as new programs loaded into the ship's systems. Her eyes grew wide as she read the technical details. "Sir, this is impossible. These power levels, these targeting systems, these defensive capabilities. Our ships can't handle this kind of upgrade, can't they? Hai Jin looked more closely at the specifications. Actually, sir, it looks like they can. Someone has been planning this for a long time. All of our ships were built with hidden capabilities we never knew about. Hidden by who? Dr. Tae-Hyen Choi's research division, apparently. Sir, if these specifications are accurate, our little frigates are about to become very dangerous. On Taegu Prime, Su Bin Nam received a similar message from Earth, but her message wasn't about ship upgrades. It was about something much more. Interesting. She gathered her mining team in the deepest tunnel complex, where Council sensors couldn't detect them. The message from Earth contained blueprints for weapons and equipment that could be built using standard mining tools and materials. Look at this, she said to Wan-Ho Shin, the head of the mining union. Earth defense has been preparing for this war longer than we thought. Wan-Ho studied the blueprints on Su Bin's datapad. These designs are based on our equipment. Someone spent a lot of time figuring out how to turn mining tools into military weapons. Not just someone, Su Bin said. Look at the design signatures. Dr. Tae-Hyen Choi. He's been planning this since humans first went to space. Around the tunnel complex, other mining teams were receiving similar messages. Within hours, every human colony would have access to weapons and tactics specifically designed to fight the Galactic Council at Bizan Station. Administrator the Jin Ko made a decision that would change everything. She activated the emergency broadcast system and sent a message across the entire galactic communication network. Her message was simple. This is the Jin Ko, administrator of Bizan Station. I am transmitting on all frequencies to every species in the galaxy. The Galactic Council has declared war on humanity without cause. They demand our surrender and threaten our extinction. We ask all civilized species to witness what happens next. Then she did something unprecedented. She opened all of Bizan Station's communication channels and began broadcasting live footage from the battle zones. For the first time in galactic history, other species could watch a war in real time. The broadcasts showed Corvin fleets retreating from human colonies. They showed human civilians using mining equipment to drive off trained soldiers. They showed alien military formations falling apart when faced with human tactics that made no military sense. Most importantly, they showed humans fighting not for conquest or glory, but for the simple right to exist as free beings. Dr. Tae-Hyen's research facilities worked around the clock to distribute Prometheus technology to human colonies. The equipment was designed to be simple to install and impossible for aliens to understand. It used principles of physics that human scientists had discovered by studying alien technology and improving it. The Council made a mistake, Tae-Hyen explained to his research team. They assumed we would use their technology the same way they do. They never considered that we might find better ways to use it. The technology packages sent to human ships included new shield generators that could adapt to different types of alien weapons. The Council's energy beams, designed to penetrate standard defensive systems, found themselves blocked by shields that changed frequency faster than their targeting computers could adjust. Human weapons were upgraded with targeting systems that could track multiple enemies at once, even when those enemies were moving in chaotic patterns. The random flight patterns that had confused Council fleets now became an advantage, as human ships could fight effectively while moving unpredictably. On mining worlds like Taegu Prime, the technology packages included plans for converting industrial equipment into sophisticated weapons. Su Bin's plasma cutters became precision beam weapons. Wan-Ho's gravitational manipulators became tractor beams that could grab enemy ships and throw them into each other. The most important upgrade was to human communication systems. The Council had cut off quantum communications between human worlds, but Dr. Tae-Hyen's team had developed New methods using principles they had learned from studying nebulite technology. Within days, human colonies were talking to each other again. They shared tactical information, coordinated their defenses, and began planning counterattacks. The Council's information blackout had lasted exactly 72 hours while Captain J. Soom tested his ship's new capabilities during a patrol near New Sol. The frigate Sol's Pride now moved faster than it should have been able to, turned more quickly than physics should have allowed, and carried weapons that hit harder than anything its size had ever mounted. "Hi, Jin," he said, "run a full tactical analysis. If the Council fleets come back with the same numbers they had before, what are our chances?" Hi Jin worked at her upgraded tactical computer for several minutes. When she looked up, she was smiling. "Sir, if they come back with the same numbers, we'll destroy them completely. If they bring twice as many ships, we'll still win. They would need at least 4 times their previous force to have a chance against us now. And if they bring 4 times as many ships, then we'll make them regret it." The response from other galactic species to the Jin Chaos broadcasts was immediate and intense. For 3,000 years, the Council had controlled all information about military conflicts. Other species had only heard the Council's version of events, always portraying them as the defenders of peace. Now they saw the truth. They watched human families evacuating their homes while Council fleets moved in to enforce peace. They saw human soldiers fighting desperately to protect their colonies while alien commanders demanded surrender. Most importantly, they saw humans winning, species that had submitted to Council demands decades or centuries ago began asking uncomfortable questions. If humans could resist successfully, why had they given up so easily? If the Council could be defeated, why had no one tried before? Admiral Dongwook received reports that other species were beginning to question Council authority. Some were asking for copies of the broadcast footage. Others were requesting secret meetings with human diplomats. "Sir," Commander Park Ji-ho reported, "we're getting communication requests from 18 different species. They want to know more about our conflict with the Council." Dongwook looked at the tactical displays showing human colonies preparing for the next wave of attacks. Prometheus technology was being installed on every human ship and every human world. Mining equipment was being converted into weapons. Civilian engineers were working with military planners to prepare defenses. "Tell them," Dongwook said, "that humanity is fighting for the right of all species to choose their own path." 2 weeks after the first Council attacks, reports flooded into galactic communication networks from across human space. The news was impossible for most alien species to believe. Human forces weren't just surviving, they were winning. At the Jeju Research Outpost, Commander Yun Wukong watched his tactical display with satisfaction. 3 Corvin heavy cruisers drifted powerless in space, their crews waiting for rescue ships. His small defense force of converted research vessels had defeated them without losing a single ship. "Sir," called his science officer, "the new shield." Harmonics worked perfectly. Their weapons couldn't maintain a target lock for more than a few seconds. Yun Wu nodded. The shield technology Dr. Tae Haiyan had developed was based on human observations of how different alien weapons worked. Instead of building stronger shields, humans had built smarter ones that could change their properties faster than alien targeting systems could adapt. "Any word from the merchant fleet?" Captain Sora Bay reports successful engagement near the Tongue trade lanes. Her cargo ships destroyed 2 nebulite squadrons and captured a Vorthic support vessel. Yun Wu smiled. Sora had been a civilian cargo hauler until the war started. Now she commanded a fleet of merchant ships that had been converted into the most effective raiders in human space. Alien military commanders couldn't understand how cargo vessels could outfight their warships. The answer was simple. Human cargo ships weren't designed like alien cargo ships. They were built by people who expected trouble and planned for it. Every human merchant vessel could fight if necessary, and most of them could fight very well. On Taigu Prime, Su Bin Nam and her mining teams had turned their world into a fortress that alien ground forces couldn't crack. The planet's surface was honeycombed with tunnels, and every tunnel was filled with weapons built from mining equipment. Ghost Team to all units, Su Bin called through the communication network. Council reinforcements just landed in Sector 7. Standard Corvin drop pattern. One Ho Shin's voice crackled back through the comm. Tunnel team moving to intercept. We've got new toys to test. The new toys were gravity bombs built from mining equipment. They created localized gravitational fields that could crush metal or fling objects into space. Su Bin had developed them by studying how asteroid mining ships moved large rocks. Through her periscope, Su Bin watched Corvin soldiers advance across the mining facility. They moved in perfect formation, their blue-black, armor gleaming in the artificial lights. They had learned from their previous defeats and brought heavier weapons this time. Doubt it didn't matter. The gravity bombs activated in sequence, creating invisible fields of crushing force. Corvin soldiers found themselves pressed against the ground by gravity 3 times stronger than their home world. Their heavy weapons became too heavy to lift. Their perfect formation became a scattered collection of aliens struggling to stand up. Now, Su Bin whispered. Mining charges exploded throughout the facility, but these weren't random explosions. They were carefully calculated to create a maze of obstacles that forced the Corvin forces into killing zones where human weapons waited. Plasma cutters designed to slice through solid rock, cut through alien armor like it was paper. Sonic borers meant to break apart asteroids, shattered alien weapons and equipment. Molecular dissolvers turned alien vehicles into piles of separated atoms. Within an hour, the Corvin reinforcement force was retreating back to their ships, left behind most of their equipment and several prisoners, who would later provide valuable intelligence about Council military plans. At New Seoul, Captain Jae Sung-yoon received reports from across the colony's defense network. The Council had sent their largest fleet yet, over 200 ships from 3 different species. It should have been enough to overwhelm any human defense. Instead, it had become the largest military disaster in Council history. Hai-jin, Jae-sung said to his tactical officer, "Give me the final count." Hai-jin Lee looked up from her tactical computer with an expression of amazement. "Sir, enemy losses. 37 ships destroyed, 64 ships disabled, 43 ships retreating with heavy damage. Total Council casualties, over 40,000. And our losses? 2 frigates with minor damage, 12 injured, no deaths." Ji-sung stared at the numbers. It wasn't possible. 15 human ships against 200 alien vessels should have ended in complete human defeat. Instead, the Council fleet was scattered across 3 star systems, many of their ships drifting. Powerless in space, the difference was human technology and tactics working together. Dr. Tae-hyun's shield systems made human ships nearly impossible to destroy. Human weapons, improved with alien technology, could penetrate any Council defense. And human tactics, based on chaos and unpredictability, made it impossible for alien commanders to plan effective attacks. "Sir," the communications officer called out, "we're getting reports from other colonies. Same story everywhere. The Council fleets are being destroyed." On Earth, Dr. Tae-hyun Choi worked in his laboratory with a team of scientists and engineers from dozens of human worlds. They had been studying captured alien technology and making improvements to human weapons and defenses. "The Council made a fundamental error," Tae-hyun explained to his team. "They assumed that technology could only be used in the ways they understood. They never considered that we might find completely different applications." He gestured to a workbench where technicians were assembling a device that looked like alien technology, but worked in ways no alien had ever imagined. This shield generator uses Vorthic crystal technology, but we've modified it with nebulite gas dynamics and Corvin power systems. The result is a defensive system that's more effective than anything any single alien species could build. How much more effective? Asked G.I. Tae Lim, a xenotechnology specialist who had joined the project from the outer colonies. A single human frigate equipped with our improved systems can defeat a Corvin heavy cruiser. A human heavy cruiser can take on an entire alien squadron. Similar work was happening throughout human space. Engineers and scientists shared information freely, improving on each other's designs and developing new applications for alien technology. The Council's military advantage, built over thousands of years, was disappearing in a matter of weeks. Administrator. The Jin Ko continued broadcasting the battles to the entire galaxy. Her communications center at Bizon Station had become the unofficial news headquarters for the war. Species across the galaxy watched in amazement as human forces achieved victory after victory. This is the Jin Ko reporting from Bizon Station. She said into the Galactic Broadcast Network, "I can confirm that Council forces have been defeated at New Seoul, Taigu Prime, Jeju Research Outpost, and 17 other human colonies. Human casualties remain minimal, while Council losses are catastrophic." The response from other species was immediate and intense. For the first time in galactic history, someone was not just resisting the Council, but defeating them decisively. Messages began arriving at human colonies from species that had been pacified by the Council decades or centuries ago. They wanted to know how humans had achieved the impossible. They wanted copies of the battle footage. Most importantly, they wanted to know if humans would help them regain their own freedom. Dr. Tae-Hyon made a discovery in captured Council databases that changed everything. Hidden in the military records were files about dozens of other species that had faced the same ultimatum humans had received. Some had surrendered immediately. Others had fought and been destroyed. A few had been enslaved. Admiral Tae-Hyon called Dong-Wook on a secure channel. "You need to see this. The Council isn't maintaining peace. They're maintaining control. Every species in the galaxy has been forced to limit their technology, their expansion, their development." Dong-Wook studied the files on his screen. Species after species had been told to surrender their independence or face destruction. Those that had complied were allowed to exist, but never to grow beyond limits set by the Council. "How many species are we talking about, Doctor?" 47 confirmed cases. Probably more that aren't in these files. The entire galactic civilization has been stunted by Council policies. And now they know that the Council can be defeated. "Yes, sir, and they're asking for our help." The war was no longer about humanity's survival. It had become about the freedom of every species in the galaxy. Human victories had shown that the Council's power was not absolute, that their military dominance could be broken, that their age of unchallenged authority was ending. Captain Ji-Sung received new orders from Earth Defense Command. Instead of defending human colonies, human fleets were to begin offensive operations against Council military bases. The goal wasn't conquest, but liberation. "Hai Jin," he said, "plot a course for the Corvin supply depot at Rigel 7. It's time to take this war to them." Hai Jin looked up from her tactical computer with a fierce smile. "Sir, the Soul's Pride is ready. And we're not going alone. Captain So-Ra's merchant fleet wants to join us, along with Commander Yun-Woo's research ships. A frigate, some cargo haulers, and a few research vessels against a fortified military base. Sir, 3 weeks ago, it would have been suicide. Today, I almost feel sorry for the Corvins." Almost, but not quite. The Corvins had chosen to serve the Council's oppression. 6 months after humanity refused to kneel, Admiral Dong-Wook Kim stood once again in the Galactic Council chambers. But this time, he was not alone. Representatives from 18 different species stood with him, their faces showing a determination that had been missing from the galaxy for 3,000 years. The council chamber looked different now. Many of the seats that had once held absolute rulers were empty. The Corvin military section had only half its usual occupants. Several Nebulite representatives had switched sides entirely. Even some Vorthek crystal beings flickered with new light patterns that their own people called hope frequencies. Behind the speaking platform, Captain Jae Soong Yoon commanded a human fleet that surrounded the council station, not threatening it, but making it clear that the days of council ultimatums were over. His ships included not just human vessels, but also ships from the newly formed Free Species Alliance. Counselor Vexthan, Dongwook said, addressing the lead Vorthik representative. 6 months ago, you gave humanity an ultimatum. You demanded our surrender and threatened our destruction. Today, we return to discuss the future of galactic civilization. Vexthan's crystal body was dim now, lacking the brilliant light it had shown during humanity's first trial. Many council fleets had been destroyed or captured. Council military bases across the galaxy had fallen to human-led liberation forces. The invincible reputation they had maintained for millennia was shattered. Admiral Kim, Vexthan said, his voice coming through speakers that crackled with static. Humanity has proven its military capabilities. What do you want from us? Nothing, Dongwook replied. We want nothing from you except for you to stop demanding things from everyone else. General Thakmer, the Corvin military commander, stepped forward on his 4 legs. His dark blue face showed the exhaustion of a soldier who had lost too many battles. You cannot expect the galaxy to exist without order, without structure, without authority. Mi Young Park, who stood beside Dongwook as Earth's chief diplomatic advisor, stepped forward. General, there's a difference between order and oppression. There's a difference between structure and slavery. She activated a holographic display that showed the galaxy as it existed before the war. For 3,000 years, the Council has prevented species from developing beyond limits you set. You've stopped scientific advancement, limited territorial expansion, and crushed any attempt at independence. The display changed to show what the galaxy could become. Humans propose a different model. Species working together by choice, not by force. Technology shared freely, not hoarded by the powerful. Exploration and development guided by mutual benefit, not by fear. Ambassador Flux, the Nebulite representative, drifted down from her section. Her gaseous form pulsed with agitation. You speak of cooperation, but you have defeated our fleets. You have destroyed our bases. How is this different from conquest? It was one Ho Shin who answered. The former miner had become the first director of colonial defense for the Free Species Alliance. Ambassador, when we captured your bases, what did we do with them? Flux's gaseous form shifted uncomfortably. YOU returned them to local control. When we defeated your fleets, what happened to your crews? They were treated according to galactic conventions and returned safely. When we liberated worlds under Council protection, what did we demand in return? Flux was silent for a long moment. Nothing. You demanded nothing. One Ho nodded. That's the difference, Ambassador. Conquerors take things. Liberators give people choices. Dr. Tae Hyan Choi appeared on the chamber's main screen from his new research facility. Behind him, scientists from dozens of species worked together on projects that would have been impossible under Council restrictions. Counselors, Tae Hyan said, humanity has shared every technological advancement we've made during this conflict. Our shield technology, our weapon systems, our communication networks. We've given them freely to any species that wanted them. The display behind him showed collaborative research projects happening across the galaxy. In 6 months of freedom, participating species have made more scientific advances than they achieved in the previous century under Council limitations. Vexthen's crystal body flickered with what might have been confusion. Why? Why share technology that gives you military advantages? Subin Nam, who had been invited to speak as a representative of civilian resistance, smiled. Because we learned something in the minds of Tagu Prime, Counselor. When people work together by choice, they accomplish things that no single group could achieve alone. She gestured to the diverse crowd of representatives around her. Every species here has contributed something unique to our alliance. Corvin engineering discipline, nebulite atmospheric sciences, Vorthic crystal technology, human adaptability. Together, we're stronger than any of us could be alone. The chamber fell silent as the implication sank in. For 3,000 years, the Council had maintained power by keeping species separate and dependent. Humanity had broken that system not through conquest, but through cooperation. Administrator the Jin Ko, who had continued broadcasting throughout the war, addressed the chamber from her communications center at Bizan Station. The galaxy has been watching these proceedings. 43 species have requested membership in the Free Species Alliance. 12 others have declared independence from Council authority. This cannot stand, General Thicmer said, but his voice lacked conviction. There must be central authority. There must be someone in control. Captain Jae Sung's voice came through the communication system from his ship above the station. General, there will be authority. Just not absolute authority. There will be structure. Just not rigid structure. There will be leadership. Just not dictatorship. Hai-Jin Lee, who had become the Alliance's chief tactical coordinator, appeared on another screen. The Free Species Alliance has established mobile command stations throughout the galaxy. No single world, no single species, no single group controls everything. But who makes the decisions? Vex then asked. Everyone, Dongwook said simply. Species that want to work together send representatives to alliance councils. Decisions are made by consensus when possible, by majority vote when necessary. Number. Species is forced to participate, but every species that chooses to participate has an equal voice. Commander Yun-Woo Kang, who had been developing new diplomatic protocols at the Shiju Research Outpost, added, The Alliance doesn't give orders. Counselor. It makes suggestions, provides resources, and offers assistance. Species are free to accept or decline. And if species choose badly, Phlox asked, if they make mistakes? Then they learn from their mistakes, Myung said. Just like humanity learned from ours. Just like every species learns. Growth comes from making choices, not from having choices made for you. Captain Sora Bai, whose merchant fleet had become the backbone of interspecies trade, spoke from her flagship. The Council's protection was really a prison, counselors. You kept species safe by keeping them weak. The Alliance makes species strong by letting them choose their own risks. The debate continued for hours, but the outcome was inevitable. The old system was broken beyond repair. Too many species had tasted freedom, had seen what they could accomplish when they weren't limited by Council restrictions. Vex then finally asked the question that everyone was thinking. What happens to us? To the Council? To those who served? The old system? Dong-Wook looked around the chamber at the diverse group of representatives who had joined humanity in their fight for freedom. Counselor, you're welcome to join the Alliance as equals. Your experience in galactic administration would be valuable. Your knowledge of interspecies relations could help build a better system. As equals? General Thakmer asked. As equals, Wan-Ho confirmed. No special privileges. No superior authority. Just another voice among many, working toward common goals. The transformation didn't happen overnight. It took years for the Free Species Alliance to fully replace the Galactic Council's authority. Some species chose to remain independent. Others formed smaller regional partnerships. A few tried to recreate the old system on a smaller scale and failed. But the principle was established. No single group would ever again have absolute power over galactic civilization. The age of ultimatums was over. Su Bin Nam established the Alliance Engineering Corps, teaching practical problem-solving to species across the galaxy. Her miners became teachers, showing others how to adapt tools and technology to meet unexpected challenges. Dr. Tae Hyan's research network grew into the Alliance Science Cooperative, where species shared knowledge freely and built on each other's discoveries. The technological advancement in the first decade after the war exceeded what the galaxy had achieved in the previous 1,000 years. The Jin Chaos Communication Network became the foundation for the Alliance Information Service, ensuring that no species could ever again control what others knew about galactic events. 5 years after the war ended, Admiral Dongwook Kim stood on the observation deck of the mobile command station, New Horizon. Through the massive windows, he could see ships from dozens of species working together to build humanity's greatest achievement, a galaxy where freedom was not a privilege granted by the powerful, but a right possessed by all. Mi Young joined him at the window,